and welcome back. Today we're going for a quick gallop through some of the activities offered by Moodle, specifically the setting up support and discussion forums, how to use feedback activities for informal surveys. I'll look at a glance at H5P, specifically interactive videos, and how to restrict access. Okie dokie. So what we're going to look at first of all, in terms of activities that we can include in our course, is a really fundamental one. It's the support forum. Now, all the sections right across my course have a support forum. And mine look like this. They all look the same, standardized as it were. They look identical to this all across my course, and they're set up in exactly the same way. And as you can see, there's a nice big heading, so it catches the eye, an explanation that this is just for asking for help, guidance, and there's an icon just to increase the visibility of the section, just to make it easy at a glance to see what each part of this page is dedicated to. So I'm just going to show you how I set this up, and I start by clicking here, add an activity or resource. Obviously I have editing turned on, otherwise that would not appear. Here we have a wide selection of activities, and they're in alphabetical order, so we find forum pretty quickly. A click on top is sufficient to get this interface showing up, and the first thing we need to do is give it a name. I've called it Support Forum 2, and I am repeating the name here in the editor because this is where I get to make the big visible heading, which is centered, and where I get to add an image that I use as a kind of icon. So I browse my repositories, and if I don't already have it, if I hadn't already uploaded it, but I did because, as I said, I created these support forums right across my course. So I would go to upload file, choose a file, and that would take me into my computer. Whereas if I go to recent files, which is what it wants to do automatically, I already have this icon uploaded. So I just have to select it. It's a support forum icon, let's call it that. Is that a description? That's probably not a great description, but we'll save the image. And if you see in relation to the title, it's a bit off, so you just click on top of it, center it, and you're in business. Oh, I want to put a little description here, blah, 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 ask for help, get guidance, your mediator and your teacher and your classmates will help, something like that. That's there, and so that all of this shows up, everything that's in the editor shows up, I need to click display description on course page, otherwise this will not show up. Okay, what I need to do now, so a lot of these other options, these tweaking options, I'm not really interested in. I'm really only going to look at a couple of them, and the one is subscription and tracking, and I'm going to opt for auto subscription, so that if I'll leave the read tracking to the individual users, but auto subscription means that if somebody asks a question, they then get notified when their peers or the course instructor or mediator chimes in with a solution, so they get notified straight away. And then there's no grading and there's no rating or anything like that, because it's not a learning activity per se, but I am going to go to activity completion, and I'm going to opt for do not indicate activity completion, because it is absolutely not a requirement to take part. So you don't get brownie points for taking part, and it's there to help. So all I have to do now is save and return to course, and if all is well, down at the bottom of this section, There we go. Support forum 2. So the bigger icon, the gobbledygook description, but that's the one we've done. And as you can see here, because normally under the title we would have the requirements. There's no requirement. We didn't set up requirements. So that means that the support forum is now up and running, and it is there for anybody who needs a bit of help. Okay, and now, however, we're going to have a look at a discussion or a reflection forum, which is to say a forum which is an integral part of the course where participation and some kind of production, some kind of contribution is a requirement for your course. That's a whole other thing. We have to set it up slightly differently, and this is what in one of my sections, what one of my discussion forums look like. Again, it's got the big heading. This time I haven't bothered with an icon, but I have got a much longer description of what's going on here, what this is for. So I need, if you could spot right down here at the bottom, I've spelled out, although it's here also, the requirement is here, I've included in the description, the course description, a reminder of the fact that this particular activity, this particular forum, is a course requirement. So, and here it is, you have to post your own post and make a minimum of 2 replies to other posters. So let's see how I went about that. Okay, so let's scroll down again to the bottom of our page and add an activity or resource. It's like the last time for a support form, we just click on the forum activity option, and there it is. But we're going to, a lot of the phases are absolutely identical, but some of the features are different. So we're going to call this our discussion forum. That's really original. And we remember, we repeat the title here because if like you like a nice big heading which you can control obviously the color. Let's have a different color, do something a bit different this time so it really stands out. Red writing. Let's pop up an icon in anywhere. I hadn't done that in the one I just showed you. Let's choose. Oh yes, let's choose this. This is a nice picture. This is a nice picture of people talking. Okay, and I'm going to make it a lot smaller. I don't want it to be too. I don't want it to be taking up too much space. Just a nice image of a couple deep in conversation. So that's quite a nice little icon. And okay, I need to put in again my description, blah blah blah, and this is a requirement, and you must take part, and it's very important, and I want to talk about this, that, or the other. Okay, and again we click display description course page, otherwise all this effort here in the editor will not show up. And this time we need to do a couple of things. We'll go back to subscription tracking. I'm going to set it to auto subscription so that if people take part, if they post, the minute they take part in it, they post, they're going to be notified of responses and so on. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to go to ratings, not gradings, but ratings, and change ratings to maximum rating. I'm going to leave it point. Maximum grade is fine. Grade category, I haven't set up anything other than my end of section quiz categories. I'm just going to leave, maybe later on in my course creation, not maybe, without doubt, I will have a whole bunch of different types of categories for different types of activities, but for the moment I'm just going to leave this uncategorized. The grade to pass, I'm just going to leave it as 100, as it's all or nothing. And then I'm going to go to a activity completion. And this time, remember last time in the support forum where the activity was absolutely not a requirement to pass the course, this time I'm going to click show activities complete when conditions are met, because I want a grade and I want my students to create a discussion. I'm going to tick this and untick these two, the ones that were automatically ticked. I'm going to opt for grade, for rating. The rating is required. And I'm going to tick also student must post at least 2 replies. Okay, so these are all the criteria set up for this activity to be considered complete by the student. And now all I have to do is hit save and return to course. And if I've done things properly, have I done things properly? Suspense. Let's see if I've done things properly. Hopefully yes. Just down the bottom. It looks good. So it looks fine. There's my weird description. Oh, it changed the colour. I didn't like the red. Don't know why that happened. We'll leave that as a mystery. But we've got the criteria for the activity being considered, and it looks right. It looks right. So we're happy. Okay, so I wanted to touch briefly on using feedback/survey options. Okay, I thought that it would be a really nice idea to have an informal survey as a kind of warm-up activity. Sort of raising awareness in teachers, reminding them how difficult it is to learn foreign languages, put them in the position of the students for a couple of minutes by asking some basic questions. And I explored both the survey option and the feedback option and came to the conclusion, this is a little tip that I'm passing on to you, that the survey option, while very sophisticated, is actually probably too sophisticated for what I meant, for what my intentions were, i.e. it's an actual serious data collecting, data analysis type feature, which you may not want to get involved. You may or may not want to get involved in. If it's just a warm-up activity for a class, then feedback allows you to set up questions, and students get to answer multiple choices and true and falses and short answers, and it serves the similar purpose without some of the more complicated and sophisticated data analysis options. So that's what I did. Just thought I'd introduce it to you as a possibility. I liked it. It worked for me. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the next activity, which I just feel I have to introduce you to, is this one, H5P interactive content. And if we just click here, I'll show you why I'm so enthusiastic about it, and I'll show you what I did with it. My version is not particularly impressive. Okay, so you get the editor, so you set up name, the title, and an icon if you want. But these are all the options. So these are all interactive activities, drag and drops, finding hotspots, mark the words. I mean, seriously, there's a huge amount of stuff in here, but the one that I played about with was the first one in the list, the interactive video. Okay, so what I did with this is, and let's nip back and see what it was I did. Was this an interactive video tutorial? The video is loading. It was on YouTube. It's loaded on YouTube. Really unfortunate place to pause. Not looking my best there. But I'm just going to mute it because we're not terribly interested in what's being said. because what's been said is kind of fake lesson, a place marking lesson, just to allow me to add in all these little wonderful interactive features, which hopefully we'll see in a second. So for example, true or false. So basically what happens is the video is running, and in the, you can see this is the little flags where there's these little dots flag where there's interactive content. So every time the video arrives at one of these interactive elements, the video pauses and the student is asked to answer a question, true or false, a gap fill, or whatever. There's a whole bunch of activities that you can embed. I'm not going to go through them all. There we go. There's a which is the correct statement, and let's have another look at this one. What's this one further down? So she's talking very seriously about something. She looks quite pained. It's quite a sad story that's been told. And what happens here is that the student is asked to fill in the missing words. So just checking the student's actively engaging with the video tutorial. Let's bop. No, it's not correct. Bip, some silly words. Not correct. It so it automatically corrects, and the student gets the option to see what the solutions were. So it's not a test. It's just, well, it can't be a test if you want to. You can include it in the grading system. I personally would use it just as an encouragement for students to pay attention, keep engaged, to listen to the content, to ponder about what's being said. It's more of a psychological, I would use it more of a psychological encouragement to stay on the ball and pay attention. Either way I set it up was not, it was without the grade. I'll just show you my settings here. I think the only obligation was viewing it. So grade should be 0. Hopefully, oops, it should be 0. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, we're not because it autocorrects anyway. I set up to autocorrect. I'm more interested. It's a lesson. I'm not going to be assessing people's scores actually during the lesson. It's not the assessment. But I think, that was me playing about with it. So unlock completion. So I'm doing show activity complete when the conditions are met. Yeah, I mean, it's just a kind of symbolic thing. I want the students to view it, because if they view it, they're going to hit the activities anyway. I don't want to get into grades for what is fundamentally the actual lesson. So that I'm not going to demand. So just activity is complete if the student views the video, because I'm going to assume if they view the video, they're engaging with those activities. So that's how that is done. Okay, and final feature I'm going to be looking at today is the restriction of access to a particular activity, which may turn out to be very useful for you. Now, just to showcase how this works, I'm going to use my reflection forum in my final section, and I'm going to go down to the settings, and I'm going to assume everything else is set up nicely. I'm going to restrict access. I need to give it a second to warm up. I'm not entirely sure why. I think my computer's a little slow, but yeah, there we go. Add restriction, and we're going to decide what it is we require for our students to access this activity, and I have opted for the activity completion. The student must what? Let's just see what we're going to make them do. Let's choose the thing that they must have done in order to, and it's the previous activity, which is the handbook, the Teaching English to L1 Arabic Learners Handbook. That's a collective project in the final week that everybody must take part in, and I'm going to get really specific about it and be quite mean. I want it complete and with a pass grade. Okay, so that is what I require before students are allowed to, actually I'm going to be really mean, I'm going to add something else in. I'm going to add a badge restriction, so I need also that the student has earned their week 4 badge. Okay, so we've got a couple of criteria there. Bit mean, asking for quite a lot. Save and return to course, and then we'll just see that if it's all set up properly. So let's go down to the reflection forum. Yes, restricted, not available unless the handbook activity has been completed and passed, and that they've earned their week 4 badge. So yeah, that's one way of keeping them on their toes, and that is how you set up access restrictions in any of your activities in your online course. So thanks again for your attention and all the best. Bye bye.